Thank you.
You are live.
Okay, thank you very much. I suggest we get started. Good afternoon, everyone. I will be chairing this meeting on behalf of Chair Fakarani for this evening. I'd like to call our meeting to order for July 28th, 2025. Bonjour tout le monde. J'aimerais déclarer cette réunion du 28 juillet 2125 ouverte. Before proceeding to the agenda, I want to recognize that Ottawa is located on the unceded territory of the Algonquin and Anishinaabe Host Nation. The peoples of the Algonquin and Anishinaabe Nation have lived on this territory for millennia. Their culture and presence have nurtured and continue to nurture this land. The Ottawa Police Service Board honors the peoples and land of the Algonquin and Anishinaabe Nation. Today, Ottawa is home to approximately 40,000 First Nations, Inuit, and Métis people. Ottawa's Indigenous community is diverse, representing many nations, languages, and customs. The Ottawa Police Service Board honors all First Nations, Inuit, and Métis people and their valuable past and present contributions to this land. We are currently broadcasting on Zoom and live streaming on YouTube. Should we receive any disruptions, I would ask that everyone remain patient as we work to fix the issue and resume the meeting as soon as possible. Today, prior to this public meeting, we held our in-camera meeting. I can report the following in terms of items considered in camera. We had an operational update with respect to major events and demonstrations. The board considered this item in camera pursuant to 44.2K information that Section 8 of the Municipal Freedom of Information and Protection of Privacy Act would authorize a refusal to disclose if it were contained in a record. The board received a debrief on the management of previous events that took place. No decision was taken with respect to this item. We had an item on assessment upon receiving notice, Section 19, per Canada Day 2025. We also considered this item in camera pursuant to Section 44.2K 22. To Section 44.2K information that Section 8 of the Municipal Freedom of Information and Protection of Privacy Act would authorize a refusal to disclose if it were contained in a record. Pursuant to Section 19.5, the board assessed 2 requests for temporary assistance made by the Chief of Police in relation to Canada Day. We also had an update on requests for temporary assistance for Canada Day 2025 Memoranda of Understanding. Again, this board considered this item in camera pursuant to Section 44.2K information that Section 8 of the Municipal Freedom of Information and Protection of Privacy Act would authorize a refusal to disclose if it were contained in a record. The board approved 10 memoranda of understanding with other police service boards relating to temporary assistance provided during Canada Day operations pursuant to Section 19 of the Community Safety and Policing Act. We considered 4 labor relations matters. We considered these items in camera pursuant to Section 44.2D, labor relations or employee negotiations, and 44.2B, personal matters about an identifiable individual. A decision was made regarding one of these labor relations matters, and no decision was taken with respect to the others. We had a legal services status report on the settlements in second quarter 2025. We considered this item pursuant to Section 44.2E, litigation or potential litigation affecting the board, including matters before administrative tribunals. Under Section F, advice that would be inadmissible in a court by reason of any privilege under the law of evidence, including communications necessary for that purpose. The board received an update on legal claims and actions filed against the board in the previous quarter. No decision or resolution was taken with respect to this item. And we discussed 1 legal matter. We considered these items in camera pursuant to Sections 44, Section 2, subsection E, litigation or potential litigation affecting the board, including matters before administrative tribunals, and F, advice that would be inadmissible in a court by reason of any privilege under the law of evidence, including communications necessary for that purpose. I will now proceed with the confirmation of the agenda. Confirmation of the agenda. It is recommended that the Ottawa Police Service Board confirm the agenda of the July 28th, 2025 meeting. Is the agenda confirmed?
Confirmed.
Excellent. Thank you. Confirmation of minutes. Minutes 118th of June 23rd, 2025. It's recommended that the Ottawa Police Service Board confirm minutes 118 of the June 23rd, 2025 meeting. Are the minutes confirmed?
Confirmed.
Thank you. Committee meetings, reports from committee chairs, and minutes. We have the Policy and Governance Committee draft minutes 22 of July 7th, 2025. It is recommended that the Ottawa Police Service Board receive this item for information. Are the Policy and Governance Committee meetings received?
Received.
Thank you. Declarations of interest. Are there any declarations of interest? Seeing none, we'll move to public delegations. We have 4 public delegations registered to speak today. When I call your name, you will be able to turn on your mic and video. Each delegate has up to 5 minutes to address the board. As a reminder, the board has set aside up to 1 hour as part of its regular meetings to hear delegations from members of the public. Je vous rappelle que la commission réserve 1 heure de ses réunions ordinaires aux interventions de membres du public. Advance registration is required by noon on the Friday prior to the meeting date. A written copy of the comments that will be presented must be included at the time of registration. Delegations may speak to agenda items or other subject matters that are within the jurisdiction of the board. We'll now proceed with the first registered public delegate, Robin Brown. Is Robin Brown here?
Hello, can you hear me?
Yes, thank you, Robin. Please go ahead.
Thank you. Well, I'm here to raise the same issue I've been raising for the last 5 months, and that is how this board has yet to require the Ottawa Police Service to set a specific target to reduce its disproportionate use of force on Black and Middle Eastern people. Now, at last month's meeting, I suggested the board should require the OPS to reduce its disproportionate use of force on Black and Middle Eastern people from 3.3 times more than expected to 0 by the time the OPS tables its 2025 use of force report next year. But I don't see anything on today's agenda indicating that's what you plan to do. And this is despite board members Donaldson, Curry, and Carr asking some really good questions regarding use of force at last month's meeting. What today's agenda does have is an update from the OPS on its 2027 Drive 2 strategy that talks about how the OPS is addressing its disproportionate use of force and its overall race data strategy. And that section outlines clearly how the OPS continues to support collective resistance, which I spoke about in my June 18th delegation to the Community Safety and Wellbeing Advisory Committee. In my delegation, I said collective resistance is kind of like collective impact, but in reverse. Now, collective impact, that I'm sure you're all familiar with, is, quote, a network of community members, organizations, and institutions that advance equity by learning together, aligning, and integrating their actions to achieve systems-level change, unquote. Well, we define collective resistance as a network of community members, organizations, and institutions that impede movement toward real equity by working together, aligning, and integrating their actions, resulting in resistance to systems-level change. Now, I also said in my Community Safety Advisory Committee delegation that being perpetually in the phase of establishing yet another hand-picked advisory group is another classic sign of collective resistance. And you can't get a much clearer example of being perpetually in the phase of establishing yet another hand-picked advisory group than the OPS's Drive 2 strategy, saying that after all these years, the OPS is only now just about to launch the Traffic Stop Race Data Task Force, the use of force community review panel, and the OPS Mental Health Council. Now, in my delegation to the board, or this board last month, I pointed out that neither the OPS nor the CEC had announced the members of the new CEC use of force review panel, but we strongly recommended or suspected they'd be the usual hand-picked suspects. And the Drive 2 strategy report confirms our suspicion, announcing that 2 of the panel members are Michael Tay and Suzanne Valiquette. Now, Tay replaced Sahada Alalo as co-chair of the CEC, which is ineffective by design. And former OPSB chair Suzanne Valiquette recently made headlines in her current role as vice chair of the Byward Market District Authority by having her assertion that the new Byward Market police station was making people feel safer contradicted by the city councilor for the market, Stephanie Plant. So, given all this collective resistance by the OPS, we foresee that, like the OPS's 10-year race-based traffic stop data shows, things are not going to get better regarding use of force. They're going to get worse. For example, the OPS is getting a mounted unit that raises the serious concern, will the OPS use horse force disproportionately against Black and Middle Eastern people. And speaking of the OPS's traffic stop data, at last month's meeting, Member Donaldson asked the good question of Deputy Chief Bell if the OPS's increased disproportionate use of force against Middle Eastern people was related to pro-Palestinian demonstrations. Now, DC Bell said it wasn't. He said it was due to officers stopping vehicles with multiple Middle Eastern people in them. Now, if that doesn't reinforce the findings of the OPS's own 10-year race-based traffic stop data, then what does? So the OPS doesn't want to talk about setting effective use of force targets or actually improving the race-based traffic stop results. Instead, they want to talk about their work on evidence-based policing. Now, to this effect, at the last board meeting, representatives from the OPS Crime Intelligence Analysis Unit presented on its evidence-based policing work. And the OPS said it was working on evidence-based policing with Carleton Police Research Lab head Craig Bennell. Well, a reminder that in 2019, the Ottawa Police Service hired Craig Bennell and his longtime collaborator, Carleton University Professor Linda Duxbury, to evaluate the OPS's neighborhood resource teams. 2 years earlier, in 2017, Duxbury and Bennell published a report on Peel Regional Police's School Resource Officer Program that ignored the voices of Black and Indigenous students. When community groups pushed Bennell and Duxbury to include Black and Indigenous voices in their NRT study, they and the OPS canceled the 3-year, $260,000 research project. So the OPS's claims of evidence-based policing will continue to ring hollow unless the OPS acts on its own clear use of force evidence by setting clear targets to stop its disproportionate use of force against Black and Middle Eastern people, and stops working with researchers proven to produce results based on excluding evidence from racialized people. It's time to reimagine community safety by shifting money away from the things that actually respect people's human rights and keep us all safer. Thank you.
Thank you, Robin. Are there any questions for Robin, Member Donaldson?
Right. Thank you, Mr. Brown. I need clarification on one thing. In the beginning of your presentation, you mentioned that the board has yet to require the Ottawa Police Service to set a specific target, specifically dealing with the traffic stops and the use of force. And in this agenda, I'd be interested in your comments and direct you to the strategic plan and the targets that are identified in item 3.2, which the target is proportionally in traffic stops reflective of the demographic composition of Ottawa's population. So do you still see that there's been no direction on behalf of the board to the service?
Well, that's why thank you for the question. That's why I use the term specific, right? So for example, in use of force, right? Like we actually have the actual number, or actually, right? And it's 3.3 times. So I'm saying like, that's how specific I'm talking. Like we got a number there, 3.3, let's say, obviously we want it down to 0, right? Which is not even, when you think about it, that's not asking that much. We're not saying don't use force on people, right? We're saying don't use disproportionate force. You have an actual number, let's get that down to 0.
Thank you.
Well,
Thank you very much, Robin, for your delegation. And yeah, if you have any further comments on those targets, we'll probably move into approval today that are in the strategic report. You're welcome to reach out to me. I know we've met on those items before, but thank you very much. Our next delegation that we'll have is Dr. Susan Cazelli. Is Susan here? Yes, I see her. Thank you very much, Susan. You can go ahead.
Thanks, Marty. Councillor Carr. Good evening, everyone. My name is Susan Cazelli, and I'm here today not just as an Ottawa resident, but as a terrified mother who has exhausted every reasonable avenue to keep my family safe, and yet continues to find herself unprotected and unheard. In May of this year, a man, let's call him Mr. X, was apprehended by Ottawa police. Mr. X is a repeat violent offender who has stalked my home, violated probation orders, ignored court conditions, and fixated on my 2 young children who are only 4 and 6 years old. I was grateful to Ottawa police for having quickly rearrested this man. I clearly requested, however, that he be charged to the full extent of the criminal code for criminal harassment, intimidation, threats, and stalking, in addition to the breach of probation. I emphasize the deliberate and escalating nature of his behavior. He has violated his probation order not to come near us, repeatedly stalked my property, referred to my children as his, and inflicted ongoing fear and psychological trauma on my family. Despite this, my email received no response. Worse, the appropriate charges were never laid. The Crown later told me that they were unaware of the full history and that it was the responsibility of the police to lay the appropriate charges. So because of this failure, Mr. X, who's known to his probation officer and the Crown to pose a high risk of reoffending, will soon be released back into my neighborhood with inadequate legal constraints to keep my children safe. And I'm told he'll be free in 2 weeks. So I want to be clear about what my family has endured. Mr. X has pressed his face against my door. He's peered into my home. He's banged on my windows. He's defaced my property. He's left messages for my children. He's approached my children directly outside of our house. He's repeatedly violated court orders and police instructions. He's told the court that, and he's told us that my children are his. He's scribbled that on my stoop, and these words continue to haunt us. He has been targeting my family since February 2024. So I've added locks, I've covered my windows, I keep my kids inside as much as possible. They're afraid to play out in front because that's where they were approached by him. They ask why they can't ride their bikes down even our driveway. So they understand, even at their age, that they've been targeted. They just don't understand how serious. And because I live within a 500-meter radius of multiple homeless shelters, and because Mr. X is unhoused, this will continue to be a problem. I live directly where Center 454 is located. It is a mismanaged, unsupervised drop-in on a residential street, and so another encounter is inevitable. And according to unpublished data that the province no longer puts out, neighborhoods like mine have one of the highest concentration of registered sex offenders. And many of them are, again, unhoused. So tonight I'm asking directly, why did the Ottawa Police ignore my request? Why did you fail to act despite clear evidence of criminal harassment, intimidation, and threats? And what immediate steps will you take now to ensure that this dangerous man does not reoffend against my children? My family deserves to feel safe in our own home. My children deserve to grow up without fear that a predator will appear at our door. And I'm here because the system has failed us once, and I'm hoping that you guys will ensure that it does not happen again. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much, Susan. I don't see any questions. I believe you'll have follow-up directly from the OPS on this, but thank you for coming to explain your story. And I believe we have some other delegations from your neighborhood on different matters, but I'm very sorry for what your family has endured in this case. I'm a mom myself to much older children, but I understand how unsafe it must make your family feel. But thank you for coming and sharing. Chief, you wanted to add something there?
Yeah, thank you, Vice Chair. Yeah, ma'am, I know I did receive an email from you, and first of all, I'm not happy to hear that you feel so unsafe in your house, in your neighborhood. That is something that obviously we aim to, it's our goal, so people feel safe in their neighborhood. And that's, I understand the area that you live in, and we do have, a number of issues in that particular area. I do believe our team met with you last week. We made sure that occurred to talk to you about safety measures and explain to you what we did and what we didn't do. And I was told that conversation occurred. But I think it's not just one meeting. Making sure that we do have regular contact with you to manage the issues that you're facing, so you can feel safe in your neighborhood. You've mentioned that your particular residence is in a problematic area in terms of a number of shelters. It is something that we're trying to manage with obviously social agencies as well as the partners that we have in that area, but that also includes enforcement. And as you noted, we did charge this individual with a number of offenses, but it's difficult to control and manage everybody, but it's something that we are committed to, and something that I'm speaking to later today as well too. But we do feel for you, ma'am, and we do want to keep working with you and your family.
Thank you, Chief.
Thank you very much, Chief, and thanks again, Susan, for coming out and speaking to us.
Councillor Carr.
Pardon me?
I said thank you, Councillor Carr.
Oh, okay, yeah, no worries. Our next delegate on the list is Anya Fraser. Is Anya with us? Hi, Anya. Please go
Yeah.
ahead when you're ready.
Okay, there we go. Good afternoon, I'm Anya. I live in Sandy Hill, close to Susan. I want to talk to you about the core strategy. At first glance, the OPS community outreach, response, and engagement strategy looks promising. You would think with the words community outreach and engagement in the name, that core would involve some kind of, I don't know, outreach or engagement with the community. Wrong. The core strategy claims to be a community-oriented approach to reducing crime in specific areas of Ottawa. But dig deeper, and it's clear that there are serious blind spots and missed opportunities. The biggest one being that it doesn't reach out to or engage with the communities in those areas at all. Focused efforts in hotspots. Analysis of police data reveals that approximately half of all downtown crime occurs in only a few small areas. OPS has identified 8 hotspots where there's high volumes and severity of crime, all in Ward 12. Your website says that core strategy will use neighborhood resource teams to target repeat offenders whose actions are impacting, and I stressed, residents, businesses, and visitors in hotspot areas. Let's be clear, if OPS has identified a high crime hotspot, that's not just a statistical anomaly. That's a sign that the community in that area is not safe, and OPS is not currently meeting its mandate to protect those people. The neighborhood ops center is too far away. The new NOC has opened at 50 Rideau Street, which might boost police visibility around the Rideau Mall and the Byron Market, but does nothing for hotspots further east. Lowertown and Sandy Hill, where 3 of the hotspots are, remain underserved. OPS needs to open a second NOC further down Rideau Street, maybe where Steve's Music used to be, or the Circle K or Magic Cuts across the street. All of those locations are currently vacant because the businesses were forced to close because of the out-of-control crime. So clearly, there's a need for greater police presence in that 100 block. The Integrated Community Situation Table doesn't represent this community. The ICST sounds impressive until you realize that it's made up entirely of service providers who are only concerned with further concentrating support for people experience acutely elevated risk in this area, not people who actually live or work here. Let's call this what it is, the Integrated Service Provider Table. It does not reflect the safety concerns of residents or businesses. No one from our community sits at that table. Where's the Community Advisory Board? Your webpage says community engagement is at the heart of CORE, but it turns out that OPS scrapped the CAB, supposedly to avoid duplicating an initiative that OPH and CSSD might do at some unspecified point in the future, maybe. Meanwhile, residents and businesses in these high crime hotspot areas, whose safety is compromised on a daily basis by inadequate policing, have no dedicated forum to talk to OPS about policing matters. Having quietly dropped CAB, the core strategy has 0 plans to engage with the residents and businesses here. That is unacceptable. Given that OPS has publicly stated that residents, businesses, and visitors are being negatively impacted by high crime in hotspot areas, then OPS ought to be actively engaged with us to realize how unsafe residents, businesses, and visitors feel, understand how the out-of-control crime impacts our daily lives, learn how serious a problem underreporting is, and listen to what policing actions would actually make residents, businesses, and visitors feel safer. In conclusion, the core strategy is doomed to failure because it does not engage with our community. One of the 4 objectives of CORE was safer communities, hotspot signal communities in crisis, and you cannot fix a crisis without talking to people living through it day in, day out. Until OPS listens to and engages with people who live and work in these hotspots, you won't make our communities any safer. Another objective of CORE was community-led solutions. But instead of talking to the residents and businesses in these hotspots, the people who actually make up our community, the OPS is holding more behind closed doors discussions with service providers, many of whom are no longer welcome in our community. Residents and businesses in these hotspots need accountability. We need to feel safe, and we need meaningful engagement with the OPS. You owe it to us to work with us to serve us better. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Anya, for your presentation. Do we have any questions from any of the other board members? Member Henschel.
First of all, thanks, Anya, for your presentation. I would just be interested to hear the response from the police service to the challenges that have been raised in this presentation.
Thank you. Chief, will you respond or will someone else respond?
Yeah, I can respond. Thank you, Vice Chair. Yeah, hello, Anya. Certainly, your perspectives of what you're reporting to us in terms of feeling unsafe and lack of consultation. So, and general criticism of the core program. I'll start. Well, first of all, it's similar to my comments to the previous delegate. I'm not happy that you feel that way, that you don't feel safe in your neighborhood. It's something obviously that we strive for and want you to feel safe in your neighborhood. There's no doubt about a few things. It's a very where you live in that general area is very busy. We have launched the core program, but I can tell you that the core program is not a finished product. It is still maturing and growing, and it's still, we are getting our human resources and our that we need to fulfill that program. They're still coming in because we have other demands across the city and within our service. So I would love to have a fully resourced core program to deliver on what we're trying to do. Sergeant Paul Stam, who is leading the core program, has worked extremely hard getting a number of initiatives up and running, and he has a small team with him, but that team will grow. And we recently, in the last few weeks, we have grown the team slightly so we can have more presence in the general Byward Market area, Rideau Street, etc. But we do need more of a team there, and that is coming. Trust me, I would love to throw 15, 20 people in that general area permanently. I just don't have that capacity in terms of what is demanded around the city. I've been into Centertown the last few weeks. They're asking for more resources. They are in different parts of the city. In regards to community consulting with and talking to the community, it is something that we have done a lot of, particularly out of the gate as we were developing the core strategy. That ongoing, I think we had up to 6 town halls in the initial stages of the core, trying to get an idea what the community wants from us. Certainly revisiting that and hearing from you again, we're hearing from you now, is something that we do need to revisit to make sure that we understand the current status, because I know it has changed greatly. I've done a lot of consulting. It's something I'm going to speak to actually in my verbal report. I'm visiting we have 24 wards in the city. I'm visiting with all the councillors here over the summer, and I'm hearing a lot from the community in regards to what's going on in their specific wards. We have a lot of work to do, Anya, and I know in your ward, what the consistent theme I've heard is that there seems to be more vulnerable population that are coming in. There's the social disorder is occurring, retail theft is up, there's open drug use, and it's things that we have to strategize and work together with our social agencies, and that's why we are working with them. There's different prongs to this. We want people to go on a positive path that are sick, that have mental health issues, that have addictions, that are unhoused. We want to find a positive path. There is a piece of the pie for us in terms of charging those people that are creating a lot of victims every day. That's our piece of the pie. And if they don't want to go down a positive path, then it's the justice system that we have to send them into. And that certainly is but we need to work in conjunction with our social agencies in order to, find the path for all these various people. It's very difficult though. It's very demanding and challenging for us to meet the demands of the community right now. And clearly we're not meeting them for you, but it is our aim to do so as we grow.
All due respect, I mean, nobody here would be against using the soft approach first, but the OPS never follows up with enforcement unless somebody's been already assaulted. I regularly call in people openly using drugs and have watched police at best show up and move them along. That's all they do. They tell them to go smoke fentanyl on my neighbor's property a block away. That's the enforcement.
Mm-hmm.
Unless they were already assaulted. And by the way, for the record, We've had to sell our house and we are moving away because it's so unsafe.
Mhm.
I have a child, and every single time I go outside with my son, he is 10 months old, I am sworn at, or I'm given the finger, or I watch somebody stumble down and hit themselves, or somebody masturbates in front of me, or they stare me down. I have to like push a stroller into the middle of the road to avoid them. Like, and this is every single time I leave my house.
Hmm.
It's unacceptable. Like,
Thank you for that, Anya. And I'm sorry for what you've experienced and what that you've needed to sell your house. And I know that you've raised these issues. As you know, I'm on the public health board and communities social services as well. And there is a lot of work to be done. And I appreciate you sharing your story. And you can follow up with me directly as well. But thank you for coming out again tonight and taking that time. We do have one more delegation as well. I don't see any further questions, so we'll move to the next delegation to Brad Klein, please. Okay, Brad, I see you online. Feel free to go ahead. You have 5 minutes to start, please.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Yeah, you can hear me? Yeah, great. Thank you. Thank you for allowing me to be at the board today. I was here about a year ago, and a lot of similar conversations as with the last delegation. I live on Besserer Street in Sandy Hill downtown, and just trying to move forward on this. I think there's a lot of great opportunities here to do to some of that front end coordination work that the chief was referring to. And I sincerely appreciated, the chief's May 23rd, 2025 letter, sharing his concerns about how various elements of the Canadian drugs and substances strategies were not working in Ottawa. And I also noted that the Canadian Association of Police Chiefs wrote to Commissioner Kevin Brosseau and recommended that the federal government enhance Public Prosecution Services Canada prosecutorial capacity and policy regarding the prosecution of simple drug possession charges under the CDSA. As residents of Rideau Valley, we continue to live with the adverse outcomes of failed public policy, and we too are pushing for improvements to the CDSS in light of the Prime Minister's public commitments to review the SIS and to implement an expenditure review. We are also pushing for improvements in relation to the Federal Justice Minister's legislative reform plans for the fall. I believe that the decisions that are made in the next 1 to 2 year period will have a lasting and irreversible impact on our neighborhoods. I hope that the OPS will help us in our efforts to seize these opportunities and to put us on a path to meaningful and lasting change. The CDSS has 4 pillars: prevention, treatment, harm reduction, and enforcement. The City of Ottawa has an overdose prevention and response strategy, which has 7 pillars, including ensuring community safety and well-being. These 2 levels of government have 11 complementary and overlapping pillars, but I'm not sure how these strategies interact and manifest themselves in Rideau Valley Ward to the benefit of all its residents. In my presentation last year, I raised concerns with respect to the absence of governance and coordinated decision-making in managing the drug crisis in our neighborhoods. The enforcement and community safety and well-being pillars are ineffective to non-existent in Rideau Valley Ward. The words are certainly reassuring to look at on websites, but they do not translate into real, meaningful, and tangible outcomes. The OPS's own crime statistics for Rideau Valley bear this out: an 8% increase in crime over the last year, and over 42,000 calls for service in 2023. Citizens also maintain their own critical incidents reports to fill in the gaps. This is not normal, nor an indicator of success, and neither are the 207 opioid-related deaths in Ottawa in 2023. A few of us are doing our best to resist the onsetting numbness and unfortunate normalization of the situation. Earlier this year, I forwarded to the OPS a May 15th, 2025 CBS News article which was police seized drugs 218 times in first month of cracking down on open air drug use in London. I would encourage the OPS and Councillor Plante's office to apply to the Government of Canada to develop a program and Rideau Vanier ward that links the enforcement and community safety and well-being pillars with the prevention and treatment pillars as is being undertaken in London. While decriminalization, destigmatization may be noble, well-intentioned, and in many cases pragmatic, complete non-enforcement of Canada's criminal code continues to fuel the open-air drug market around the SIS at 221 Nelson Street and compromising the safety and well-being of residents. It also supports the importation, manufacturing, and distribution of illegal and toxic drugs. In addition to developing a new enforcement program for Rideau Vanier, the OPS can help us by supporting us in our efforts to reform CDSS. For example, in the interim, the OPS should work with the City of Ottawa to make sure that any program expenditure or policy decision made by the federal or any level of government must include an enforcement impact assessment, including incremental costing and resourcing before any project or initiative can be approved. For example, since 2021, the federal government has provided at least $7.6 million to a not-for-profit to administer safe supply. Was the OPS involved in this decision-making? Was some of this money set aside to assist in enforcement? The current 6-month exemption for the SIS at 221 Nelson Street will expire in November. What role will the OPS and the City of Ottawa play in the Prime Minister's SIS review process and decision-making? This is not the neighborhood I moved into 23 years ago or even the last 5 years. We need the OPS to work with us through Councillor Plante's office to develop a citizen-centered public policy response that works for all residents. Thank you.
Thank you very much for your delegation, Mr. Klein. Brad, do we have any questions from the members of the Police Service Board? Okay, seeing no questions. Thank you very much, Brad, for your presentation tonight. We've heard some common themes about the area that I'm sure will be discussed throughout our presentations. Thank you and have a good evening.
Okay, thank you very much.
And so this concludes the delegation section of our meeting. We'll now move through the rest of the agenda. So just give me 2 seconds just to transfer my screen. So what we'll do is we'll run through, first of all, are there any inquiries? Seeing none, we'll move to items of business. So our first item of business is the chair's verbal report. So we're going to hold that item. The second item of business is the chief's verbal report. So we'll hold that item as well. And then the strategic plan, 2024-2027, that's executive director will do that. We'll hold that item as there's a presentation. Then our next item is the sole source justification letter for implementing Community Connect Patrol and Insights VCAD BRMS add-on modules. Does anybody want to hold this item? No one wants to hold that item? Okay, so we'll do the recommendation. It is recommended that the Ottawa Police Service Board approve the sole source justification letter for implementing Community Connect Patrol and Insights VCAD RIMS add-on modules. Is this item carried?
Carried. Carried.
Okay, thank you very much. The district model structure and cost report, which is going to be a presentation, there's no longer a presentation, but do we want to hold this item? Is there anyone that wants to hold that item?
Yes, I'd like an update if I could, Chair.
Thank you. So we will hold that item. Item 8.6, the Ottawa Police Service 2023 to 2027 Drive-to Strategy Update Report. It's Chief's report. Anybody want to hold this item? Nobody wants to hold that item? Okay, it is recommended the Ottawa Police Service Board receive this report for information. Is the item received?
Received.
Okay, thank you. 8.7, the update on the mounted unit, June 2025 progress update, year 2, April 1st, 2025 April 1st, 2026. Does anybody want to hold that item for discussion or questions?
Yeah, please hold.
Please hold. Okay, great. Thank you. The next report is the complaints report under both the Police Services Act and the Community Safety and Policing Act and Special Investigations Unit Act, second quarter 2025. Does anybody want to hold that item? I don't see any requests to hold that item, so therefore it's recommended that the Ottawa Police Service Board receive this report for information. Is this item received?
Received.
Okay, perfect, thanks. Then the next one, 8.9, which was the response to the inquiry, I-2506, that's, does anyone want to hold that item? Or do any board members have any questions or comments on that? Do you want to hold that at all? No? Okay, so it is recommended that the Ottawa Police Service Board receive this report for information. Is this item received?
Received.
Okay, thank you. Next item, the Legal Services Status Report 2025, second quarter board solicitors report. Does anyone want to hold this item? Do any board members have any questions on this item? Okay, it's recommended that the Ottawa Police Service Board receive this report for information. Is the item received?
Received.
Received.
Okay, excellent. Next item is our consent agenda. So on our consent agenda, would anyone like to pull the item out of the consent agenda for discussion? Seeing none, is the consent agenda carried?
Carried.
And the next item, just want to clarify the executive director. Do I need to read in the recommendation that the Ottawa Police Service Board adopt the proposed amendments to section 28 of the procedure bylaw? Or because we don't need to read it in because it was carried, correct?
No, it was carried.
Yeah, that's what I thought. Thank you. I'm not used to us using a consent agenda yet. Okay. On the item 8.12, the outstanding board inquiries, motions, and directions, July 2025 report. Do any board members want to hold this item? Seeing none, it's recommended that the Ottawa Police Service Board receive this report for information. Is the item received?
Received.
Excellent. 8.13, letters of commendation, July 2025. We will hold this item as there's a presentation. So we will go back to the beginning and we will start then at, I believe it is the chair's report first, which would be me as the chair of the evening. So just with respect to update from the chair, it's great to see that strategic plan tonight. I'm pleased that the board's updated strategic plan process is now concluded. This has been significant undertaking informed by extensive consultation and collaboration. Over 3,000 individuals contributed to the development of this plan, including residents who responded to the survey and provided feedback through other channels, community organizations, members of the OPS, both sworn and civilian, and the Community Equity Council, whose input was instrumental in helping refine the plan and align it with community expectations. The final version, of course, is submitted for approval tonight as part of today's agenda. And we'll have a presentation with the executive director shortly. But on behalf of the board, I really want to thank all of those who contributed to this important work. Also, just a note on the 2026 Ottawa Police Budget Survey. The board and OPS are inviting residents and interest holders to provide input on the upcoming 2026 police budget through a budget consultation survey. Board seeking feedback from the community to ensure the budget reflects the priorities, expectations, and concerns of those who live and work in Ottawa. Survey only takes about 5 minutes to complete and is open to any Ottawa residents 18 years and older. The survey launched on July 22nd. It's going to be open to August 5th. The survey link can be found on Ottawa Police Service Board's website on the homepage under announcement. Also on the Ottawa Public Police website under news and updates when it was posted on July 22nd. It's been shared in most city councilors' websites or newsletters as well. in terms of some of the community engagement that the board has undertaken in the past little bit, board members continue to take our time to meet with various interest holders to help inform our work. On Canada Day, Chair Fakarani, myself, and Member Donaldson attended the operational briefing delivered to members of the Ottawa Police Service deployed for Canada Day operations. Member Donaldson and I also participated in ride-alongs to observe the operations firsthand. I believe Chair Donaldson was in a car and a golf cart, and I was in a boat and a car. But this was a valuable, informative experience that underscored the scale and complexity involved in managing a major event of this nature. I'm very grateful to the approximately 1,000 personnel who contributed to the safety and success of the day, including sworn officers, civilian members, special constables, and members from external police services. Thank all of them for helping ensure a smooth, safe, and enjoyable celebration for residents and visitors alike. We're especially grateful for the assistance provided by external police services from across Ontario, whose collaboration and presence on the ground were instrumental in supporting local resources and maintaining public safety throughout the day. The board took part in a few education sessions this month, a session on member wellness provided by the OPA and a session on budget development provided by the OPS. I gave opening remarks on behalf of the mayor, actually, at a law enforcement and public health conference that was in Ottawa this year, and there was members of the OPS that were present there. And I know Member Donaldson represented the board at the annual Crime Stoppers Golf Tournament. Just a few things that our members have been doing. So that concludes my verbal report. Do I have any questions from any members? Okay, thank you. So therefore we have to receive the report. So it's recommended that the Ottawa Police Service Board receive this report for information. Is the item received?
Received.
Thank you. So we'll move to the Chief's verbal report. Chief, over to you.
Thank you, Chair. Good afternoon. First, you mentioned it as well, Vice Chair, but I do want to note that the board's core strategic plan is on tonight's agenda. And as you mentioned, that was a collaborative effort over many months, and we're pleased to have it fully completed. It is an excellent roadmap and a guiding document for our service, and we look forward to continuing our work together and reporting on the key projects and the activities to deliver on the plan, of course, with the KPIs included. I'll talk a little bit about Canada Day as well. It was a successful operation for the Ottawa Police Service. We had a strong visible presence downtown across the many celebrations across the city. I believe it was 15 areas in total. Our teams managed large crowds, road closures, but everything ran smoothly thanks to the detailed planning and the coordination. And of course, following Canada Day, Blues Fest, the Hope Beach Volleyball Tournament, and some others, those events wrapped up without any major incidents. These are high-profile events. They draw thousands of people, and I really want to thank everyone involved for their time, effort, and flexibility. And of course, our next major event is the Ironman Triathlon, which is coming up this weekend. It's another large-scale event. We have the officers and the resources in place to support a safe day for the athletes, the spectators, and the community. As you know, we have been working on the 2026 budget process for a few months already. Over the past few weeks, I have begun my one-on-one visits with city councillors in their wards to hear firsthand the issues that they want addressed. And these visits are going to continue throughout the summer. But during these councillor meetings, some of them have introduced me to community leaders, to residents, and to business owners. They've taken me to various problem areas within the wards. And overall, I can tell you, I've learned a great deal. I do every time. In addition, separate to the councillor meetings, I've met with key social service agencies over the last few past few weeks, and the business owners, and I'm going to continue to do so. For example, next week, I have a meeting with the Chinatown BIA, who are very concerned with the increased social disorder issues in their neighborhood. I would say the concerns and the themes that I've heard, they center around, well, there's always traffic issues, we know that, but retail theft, the open air drug use, erratic social behavior, and the noticeable increase in the vulnerable population, just to name a few. I'm going to talk about that shortly here too. I also am ensuring that they understand what our members are facing day to day and how we are working to try to meet the demands of the community. And I'll mention again, our service and the board launched a public consultation survey. Again, it's open. I'm going to repeat for 2 weeks. It gives residents a chance to share what they think we should focus on as we build the 2026 budget. Seems like every time I do this, the fire trucks are going through. I'll just give a second. It's always good timing. The survey, it gives the residents a chance to share what they think we should focus on as we build our 2026 budget. It only takes 5 minutes and it's available in 8 languages. So we encourage all residents 18 or older to take part. And I just want to mention, look, this feedback matters. It helps us understand what people are seeing and feeling in their neighborhoods. And we heard some of that in the delegations, did we not? I did have a section here, on the Byward market and, speaking to what we are doing, increasing our presence and launching various programs, which we will continue. But, obviously we had some of these delegations and I just want to talk a little bit about that. Look, we have seen and heard of the increase of the vulnerable population in the downtown core. Social agencies have seen a lot of out-of-town people arriving in Ottawa. We know these numbers are increasing. Agencies are overwhelmed managing the population, and we struggle as well to trying to keep up. Look, the Byward Market, Rideau Street, Sandy Hill, these areas are important to our city, and our goal is for everyone, residents, workers, visitors. We want them to feel safe and enjoy what these areas have to offer. And it seems like an obvious solution to flood the area with more police and more enforcement. And we have done just that a few weeks ago by adding some members in the area. Unfortunately, there are various demands in the city that are making it difficult for us to make a more meaningful push today. But we are working towards a safer community in this area through the core program. As I mentioned to the delegate, it is still early, and a lot of these programs and initiatives, they're still evolving. We're still building them up. And as well, as we've always said too, we are tweaking and changing. These things are not set in stone and we will not change. The environment's changing, we have to change as well too. So that's part of the program. But we also know that any effective solution, we know it requires cooperation with our community partners, social services, the local residents, and the businesses. Again, these are key parts of our area and we want everyone to feel safe. Okay, I'll shift gears here. I want to talk about some of what's occurred in the last month in terms of injured officers. This month, several of our team members were injured on duty. In one case, a cruiser with lights and sirens on was inching through a red light at Somerset and Kent when it was struck by a vehicle that didn't stop. Thankfully, no serious injuries, but a close call. We also had an officer struck by a suspect trying to flee in a vehicle. Another one was punched in the ribs while responding to a domestic violence call at Dundonald Park. A motorcycle officer was hit while traveling on the highway. He called for help himself and was conscious, alert, and transported to hospital. There were incidents where officers were spat on, including one involving a person who claimed to have a communicable disease. In that case, the saliva may have entered the officer's mouth, and there's a protocol to follow. We had a violent arrest involving a person resisting police, and one officer left with a strained shoulder, another one with a severe cut to his hand. Both were treated and released. These incidents, they do remind us of the real risk to our officers that they face day in, day out, not just from violence, but also from exposure. I want to thank them for their professionalism and for continuing to risk their own safety while responding to these difficult situations. Okay, a more positive note, our youth and policing initiatives, also known as YIPI. It's now 3 weeks. I think this is week 4 into the summer program. I happened to meet with them this morning, and I can tell you they are motivated, they're engaged, they're getting hands-on experience working with the different areas of the service. I tell you, this program continues to be a strong way to build positive relationships with the youth while helping them grow their skills and confidence. And I want to thank our members who help with this program. They take the time to mentor them, and just want to recognize the students for their energy that they are bringing to the job. They are representing themselves and us very well. Our marine unit, they've had a busy season on the water with 316 vessels stopped so far. They've laid 4 impaired boating charges, issued 55 provincial offense notices, and handed out 47 warnings. They also conducted 24 alcohol screening tests, which led to 4 3-day license suspensions. While impaired charges are still happening, we are still seeing some positive changes. More boaters are choosing non-alcoholic drinks while out on the water. It's a smart move, and it shows people are starting to get it. You can still enjoy your day without putting yourself and others at risk. And let's hope that trend continues. Last week was National Drowning Prevention Week, and it's an important reminder, especially in the middle of summer, that water safety is everyone's responsibility. This year's theme is Safer Together, and that message is simple but true. Whether you are boating, at the beach, or watching kids near a backyard pool, we all have a role to play. Every year, lives are lost in situations that could have been prevented. Drowning is quick, silent, and can happen to anyone. At the start of this month, we were reminded how fast things can go wrong. A father and his 7-year-old child went underwater at Westboro Beach. The child was pulled from the water and survived thanks to a bystander, but tragically, the father did not make it. We also saw a tragic drowning this past weekend in the Ontario Provincial Police's jurisdiction, another tragedy. Our thoughts are with all the families involved. So as the summer continues, we are asking everyone to stay alert, supervise the kids, wear a life jacket, and speak up when you see something unsafe. Another issue that we've seen a lot here in the last couple weeks, but really in the last few months, are several serious incidents involving cyclists and pedestrians. And I'm just going to name a few of them. An 8-year-old rode onto the street without stopping and was hit by a vehicle going about 40 kilometers an hour. He was wearing a helmet, which likely prevented more serious injuries. A 38-year-old woman was on a bike, crossed in front of traffic, and was struck. She was not wearing a helmet and suffered a fractured skull, along with other serious injuries. She is still in hospital. We had a pedestrian hit on Terry Fox Drive and suffered a head injury. Thankfully, they survived. At Elgin and Laurier down the street, a woman was struck by a truck and later died in hospital. In another case, a man had a medical emergency while cycling on a path and passed away. He had no identification on him, and it took hours to confirm who he was and notify his family. Over the weekend, we had a tragic collision on Mitch Owens Road. A woman in her 70s was struck and killed while riding her bike. Our fatal collision unit is investigating, and this one here, we are asking anyone who saw what happened or who has dash cam footage to please come forward. Every small detail can help make a difference in this file. Our thoughts are with the family and friends of all those who have suffered these tragic losses. And to everyone using our roads, which includes all of us, please stay alert, watch out for one another. Whether you're driving, cycling, or walking, safety has to be a shared responsibility. I want to take a moment to recognize the work of our Internet Child Exploitation Unit, also known as ICE, along with our digital forensics section. Earlier this month, ICE identified a suspect who was in possession of and distributing child sexual abuse material on the dark web. This was a high-risk case. The individual had a violent history and an advanced computer knowledge, so the team shifted from a standard approach to a full tactical operation. When officers made entry, the suspect was awake and sitting just a meter away from his computer. The digital forensic members immediately located a kill switch that would have erased all digital evidence in seconds. Thanks to a quick action and planning, that did not happen. A significant amount of evidence was preserved, and the suspect was arrested and charged. This is incredibly difficult work, the kind most people will never see, but it makes a real difference. It protects the most vulnerable members of our community, and it takes a high level of skill, discipline, and coordination to do it right. So to the members of the ICE and our digital forensics section, thank you. You handled this exactly how it needed to be done. I'll wrap up with sharing just 3 quick stories from the past month that speaks to the quality of members from our team. First, Constables Mounier and Battengar. They were called to help a young girl in crisis earlier this month. Her mother later wrote to us saying, "It hits differently when an officer tells you that you are a good mom." She said Constable Mounier's words helped her feel like she was not alone and that she was doing everything she could for her daughter. It's a reminder that how we show up matters just as much as what we do. A second example at St. James Catholic School, a theft investigation ended with a foot pursuit and an arrest in a schoolyard in front of children attending a daycare program. It was upsetting to the kids. Constable Tierney, who was not dispatched directly to the event but showed up anyway, took the time to explain what happened, calmed the kids down, and even brought officers back to visit a few days later. And the kids ended up making thank you cards. They remembered his name, and this is the kind of impression we want to leave. Lastly, 2 mounted officers passing by the Sandy Hill Community Center took a moment to say hello to some young summer campers. That small act turned into what staff called a highlight of the day. These examples don't appear to be a big deal, but it certainly can be a big deal. This is what community policing is all about. I'll end there, Vice Chair. Thank you very much. And over to you for any questions.
Thank you, Chief. We'll go to questions from members. We'll start with Member Desroches.
Thanks, Vice Chair. A couple questions, Chief. Thank you, first of all, for the presentation and the good and hard work of your team over the last period of time. Reflecting on some of the comments of the delegations that are troubling, could you remind us what the position of the police chiefs is on bail reform? I think there's frustration with enforcement action being taken, charges being laid, and what have you, and then someone's back on the street and causing distress and trouble again. So that, I think, that's a big part of sort of the challenges that we're facing and the police are facing. Can you just outline briefly what needs to be done in that area in the views of the chiefs?
Yeah, it is something I think all chiefs are aligned on this. Actually, it's just funny as you answered that or asked that question, Member DeRoche, just sitting on my desk is it's a magazine from the OACP, and the main topic, and maybe that's upside down on camera, but it says bail compliance, a public safety priority. And that's the Ontario Chiefs. And I know the CACP, the Canadian Association of Chiefs of Police, have the same mindset that bail reform is something that needs to be addressed. And I know Premier Ford has talked about it with Prime Minister Carney recently, as last week, when they were together in Huntsville, and just a commitment to really advance bail reform to ensure that those people that need to be held are held. And this revolving door stops, particularly where it's serious. It's very serious. And I believe it was the second delegate that we had, the doctor, some of these people that get out just way too soon with some real serious offenses, it's something that we certainly, along with other chiefs, have been advocating for.
Good. Thanks, Chief. I'm glad you got an opportunity to highlight that, and I agree with you. Second question is on a particular incident in my community where some residents there was a theft in progress at a store, a robbery, and the suspect was apprehended by some bystanders and held, and it took some time for police to attend to that. So I did get quite a bit of correspondence on that matter, and I know Inspector Lemieux is doing a follow-up on that, and I don't expect details today because we will wait for that review and communicate that to residents. But the question I had for you this evening, just generally speaking, is we often hear in the suburban communities of our crews and people getting pulled to respond to different parts of the city. Does that happen in reverse, that when there is a particular emergency, say in a suburban community, that you're pulling resources from other communities so that you can respond to the most critical incidents? Because again, we often hear in our community that they're pulled to go to attend various events, whether it be protests or what have you. But I think the expectation is that if there is a major emergency such as this, that that resources will be deployed, and perhaps that comes from another part of the city.
Right. Yeah. In that particular, so to answer just your last question, there is, yes, they will resources have to be deployed around the city and pulled to wherever there is an emergency, whether it's in the suburban area or in the downtown core. That has to happen. And we have staff sergeants working across the city, as well as our real-time operations center that has to monitor where everybody is and put the resources where they need to go. I'm going to speak briefly to the first incident that you spoke about that occurred in your ward. I know that file. I can tell you that that wasn't necessarily a resource issue. There were some errors made just in processing that call for service and what was communicated to the members that were on the road. And we have attended that particular commercial business, and we have apologized for the delay that occurred there. It wasn't acceptable. They should have been there sooner, but unfortunately the error at the front end just caused some of that. So that, the issue that you talk about wasn't the issue in play in that particular case in terms of resources were too busy elsewhere in the city.
Okay, that's very helpful, and I appreciate the transparency on that, and obviously the direction to try and fix this so that it doesn't happen again. So I appreciate your answers today, Chief. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much, Member Deroche. Are there any other questions from members of the board? I actually just have a couple, if that's okay, as chair. Chief, you spoke quickly about the when we were talking about downtown impacts. You spoke about an increasing number of out-of-town individuals arriving. Can I just ask, certainly we haven't seen a decrease in the number of shelter users or people on the street. Anecdotally, we're hearing about increases. When you talk about them being out of town, do we know that they're coming from out of town, and how do we know that? That's my first question.
Yeah, I have met with a number of social agencies in the last, I'm going to say 3 or 4 weeks, some of the bigger ones as well too, just getting a feel. And they're telling me they're seeing, some folks from Kingston, some folks from Cornwall. I was with Member Donaldson, at a tour of the new facility at Shepherds of Good Hope. They told of a story of a minivan coming from Montreal and dropped off some homeless folks, and right at the intake desk of at Sheps, and they took them in, and now they're part of our community in terms of them managing that population. So certainly the examples like that, you see that it's happening. I think in the community a lot. We have a lot of services here that are really, I think, struggling to keep up with the demand, but we do have a lot of services here, and people are coming, I think, for help. And I can't speak to why, whether in their own communities it's desperate and they can't get the help they need. I'm not sure. Others could probably comment on that better than I, that work directly with them in the social agencies. But it's a common theme that I'm hearing, the new faces that the frontline workers are seeing in the downtown core.
Okay, thank you for that. The second comment I wanted to comment on, you spoke about the road violence that we've seen with cyclists and pedestrians being hit, some cases fatally. And you also spoke about your visits with ward councillors and hearing them. Would I be correct in assuming that traffic enforcement is probably one of the key issues that's coming up from the ward councillors, and that sort of safety on the streets?
Yeah, I would say, the two themes that I'm getting the most are exactly that, traffic enforcement and sort of that social disorder bucket, I would say, that people are concerned about. I would say that they're neck and neck in terms of the number one issue. Okay,
thanks. I look forward to hearing kind of a fulsome summary of once your meetings with all the councillors are complete. You have meetings scheduled with all the councillors then?
You know what? I think we've got all scheduled. I think we have 21 meetings that have occurred or will be occurring. So I think we have a couple, 3 more to schedule. But I hope to get through all of them by the end of August or early September.
Okay, great. Thank you very much. So now that we've finished questions on the report, it is recommended that the Ottawa Police Service Board receive this report for information. Is the item received?
Received.
Thank you. So now we will move to the strategic plan. The executive director will have a brief presentation on this, and then we'll go to questions and comments from board members. Habib, are you good to go?
Sorry, I was on mute. Good evening,
Okay.
everyone. My name is Habib Saya, Executive Director of the Ottawa Police Service Board. Tonight, I'm pleased to present the updated version of the board's 2024-2027 strategic plan for approval. This is a document that will shape how policing is governed, delivered, and evaluated in our city over the next 3 years. This plan is more than a vision. It's a core governance instrument. Under Ontario's Community Safety and Policing Act, the strategic plan is the board's primary tool to direct, oversee, and assess the work of the Ottawa Police Service. It defines the values, desired outcomes that must guide policing in Ottawa, and since it's required to be based on extensive consultations, it's also the document through which the board translates community expectations for policing. Every major decision, from budget allocations to policy, should reflect this plan. I'd like to say a few words about the development process to give some context for why it is being updated right now. The board originally developed a strategic plan in 2023. It was grounded in extensive consultations with residents, councillors, community organizations, and the service itself. But with the entry into force of the Community Safety and Policing Act in April 2024, that version needed to be revised. The legislation brought in new legal requirements that apply to every strategic plan in the province, and specifically the law now requires that the plan first clearly define core functions of policing, describe how adequate and effective policing will be delivered at the local level, and that the plan set outcome-oriented objectives and performance indicator in several key areas, including crime prevention, public trust. To meet these requirements, the board launched a review of the 2023 strategic plan, at retreat last fall. On that occasion, the board adopted a set of CSPA compliant objectives, and over the months that followed, we worked closely with the Ottawa Police Service to develop key performance indicators and set targets. I am especially grateful to OPS colleagues who contributed to this plan, and to the Community Equity Council, whose strong engagement helped shape the final version. They particularly help emphasize the importance of collaboration in preventing and reducing crime, and the central role of community partnerships in building trust and achieving better policing outcomes. The plan keeps our 4 long-standing priorities, which remains as follows. Enhance community safety. Second, build trust through strong partnerships. Third, equity, diversity, and inclusion. And fourth, advance and support a resilient, thriving membership. But it introduces a number of important improvements. First, it includes a clear strategic framework, which contributes to defining what adequate and effective policing means in Ottawa today. We are updating the plan to reflect new legislative obligations. That includes setting outcome-oriented objectives. And to each strategic objectives, there are corresponding performance indicators. And where possible, the plan has established baseline data and outcome targets. Finally, the chief has identified a set of strategic projects led by OPS to advance each priority area. They are listed in the at a glance document attached to this report. One of the plan's most important innovations is the new strategic framework for adequate and effective policing. It contributes to defining how the board approaches this concept of adequate and effective policing under the new legislation. It's grounded in a few key commitments: geographic equity, recognizing that the differences in safety, recognizing the differences in safety needs across urban, suburban, and rural areas. Intersectional equity, acknowledging how factors like race, income, gender, and language shape people's experiences of policing and their needs. Community-informed practice with an emphasis on prevention, responsiveness, and partnerships. Cultural competence and adaptability within the organization. Evidence-based decision-making, and trust and legitimacy. The district revitalization program led by the chief, which decentralizes service delivery and strengthens local problem solving, embodies many of these commitments. It's the service's core operational strategy for putting this framework into action. And together with the community safety and well-being framework, the district approach would be endorsed if the plan is adopted and identified as vital to the delivery of the board's strategic vision. So the plan is organized around 4 strategic priorities, the same pillars that shaped the previous plan, but under each of those pillars, the board has now new outcome-based strategic objectives. These objectives are designed to meet the requirements of Ontario's new legislation while giving clearer direction to the service. I will briefly walk you through them. Under the first priority area, enhanced community safety, focuses on building a community policing model that responds to local needs with a strong emphasis on prevention and partnerships. Some of the key objectives include maintaining safety and order at public events and gatherings, contributing along with partner organizations to preventing and reducing crime, as well as increasing responsiveness, and achieving 80% satisfaction with OPS among community members by the end of the strategic plans period. The second priority area, build trust through strong partnerships, is about strengthening the foundation of trust between OPS and the community through openness, engagement, and collaboration. Several objectives here include increasing public trust in the police, particularly when it comes to historically marginalized communities, and advancing OPS leadership in community engagement. The third priority focuses on advancing equity in both how the service interacts with the public and within its own workforce. Objectives include more equitable treatment, particularly for racialized persons, reducing disproportionalities in traffic stop and use of force involving Black, Indigenous, Middle Eastern, and other racialized communities, and ensuring that OPS reflects the diversity of Ottawa across its ranks. Finally, the fourth priority is about supporting OPS members so that they can succeed in their roles and serve the public effectively. Objectives include improving member morale and job satisfaction, and fully implementing the staff stabilization plan initiative to address staffing challenges. One of the most important milestones in this plan is that for the first time, the board is setting key performance indicators and targets, both qualitative and quantitative, at the strategic level. This marks a significant step forward in how the board exercises its oversight responsibilities. By clearly linking strategic objectives to measurable outcomes, the plan provides a transparent framework for tracking progress. It also supports the service in aligning its operational planning, resourcing, and performance assessments with the board's expectations. That said, this framework is not static. It's a living document. Many of the indicators and targets will need to be tested in the field. Some key performance indicators are still being finalized in collaboration with the service, especially where new data needs to be collected or baseline metrics are just emerging. We fully expect to learn from the first year of implementation and to refine the framework based on operational realities, community input, and evolving best practices. And here you can see some examples of those indicators. One example of qualitative indicators relates to the management of demonstrations, and it would be around perceived safety and fairness in the management of protests. Another indicator to note relates to the third priority area, and its proportion of use of force incidents involving Black, Indigenous, Middle Eastern, and other racialized individuals. And the target for that by 2027 would be proportionality in use of force. In closing, I want to thank the many people who helped shape this plan, community members, OPS personnel, partners, and others. It reflects a shared vision for public safety in Ottawa, one that's more responsive, more transparent, and more accountable. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Habib. I'm wondering if any of the board members have any questions. We'll go to Member Donaldson first of all. You're on mute, Member Donaldson.
Knew it had to happen sometime. Sorry. Thank you, Executive Director Saya, for that presentation and all your hard work in bringing this together. I just want to talk a little bit about go forward. So you did reference that the KPIs, especially, and this is a living document. There are some areas. So the discussion with Mr. Brown earlier, we're looking at a proportional amount of thing. He's looking at a specific number. Am I correct in my assumption as we're able to finalize and get more details on the appropriate KPIs that we'll be going from sort of a generic kind of statement to something a little bit more specific as far as the target? That was question one.
The target in the plan submitted for approval today is quite specific. It requires or it aims for proportionality in use of force based on the demographic composition of Ottawa.
Okay. The other question ongoing for the board's perspective, and I guess for anybody who's listening in on this meeting, what is the plan for the evaluation of the different what's the amount of time for review, and what's the composition of review of the strategic plan to sort of make sure that we're on track with the different objectives?
The service will be providing semi-annual updates on the strategic plan, on the KPI presented as part of this plan. The next semi-annual update, I think, is scheduled for November or December, and will be an opportunity for the service to provide feedback on the implementation of the plan and on the suitability of the targets and KPI. It's very important for these to be tested on the ground, informed by operational realities. So the service will have an opportunity to make recommendations in terms of amending that framework, and the board also will have that opportunity. And also, as directed recently by the board will receive updates or will review the strategic KPI at each meeting on a monthly basis.
Thank you.
Thank you very much, Member Donaldson. Chair Faccaretti.
Thank you. I just want to take this opportunity to really thank Executive Director Saye and also OPS colleague, I believe it's John Steinbeck, who is leading on that side, and the teams there. They've done a lot of work. We've pushed them hard. We've gone back and forth on this document. And I just want to, on behalf of the board, thank all of you who've been involved in developing this. I think it's taken us a step forward. I really hope it has. I really appreciate the extra engagement that took place with the Community Equity Council and others as the document moved forward. So I just wanted to just say thanks to all those involved in getting us this far. Thanks.
Thank you very much. And since I get to chair this meeting tonight, I'm going to add on to the gratitude that you've just expressed. I know that it's been a Herculean effort, particularly on the strategic performance monitoring framework piece. And I'm really, really excited and pleased to see the board putting together a document that specifically has items that we've been hearing about from the public. For example, the perceived management and fairness of monitoring protests, the proportionality in the use of force that is reflective of the demographics of Ottawa. You know, these are key things that we've heard from delegations and in written correspondence, and to see those indicators and targets on paper as part of that framework is a big step forward for the board. So thank you very much to the executive director and the staff of the OPS and the entire board team. The board team has expanded significantly based on the recommendations in our audit report, and very happy to have Habib and Randa and Shafi and Shadra helping us. So thank you very much. We do have to officially receive the new strategic plan. The recommendation is that the Ottawa Police Service Board approve the attached updated strategic plan 2024 to 2027. Is this item carried?
Carried.
Carried.
Thank you very much. Now, the next held item was 8.5, the district model structure and cost report. Now, there isn't going to be a presentation, is my understanding. I know Member DeRoche, you'd asked for this to be held. I had a couple questions as well. I don't know if somebody from OPS wants to speak to this a little bit, or if we want to go straight to questions. I'll turn it over to OPS to answer that question. And if not, we'll go straight to board member questions.
Yeah, I think perhaps if we could go to straight to questions. We do have Acting Superintendent Kevin Maloney, I think, in the waiting room. If he could get led in, I would appreciate that. And yeah,
Okay.
there was sort of a PowerPoint submitted, but not, just in the interest of time, not a presentation formally to be done, but certainly we can answer any questions.
Okay, great. Thanks. We'll wait for Superintendent Maloney to come in. Member DeRoche, did you have some questions ready that you wanted to have asked?
Sure. Thanks. Looking at the report, it talks about a total of 63 FTE and for 11.4 million. And that would cover, so those are net, perhaps you could just explain to me, those are net new FTEs that would be deployed in all of the districts. And you haven't determined yet where those allotments will go. So for example, for the South, which I'm particularly interested, we've got a lot of expectations because it's really the newest organizational structure. Do you know at this point how many FTE would go into the South District?
Right. Yeah. Thanks for the question, Member Darush. We do have Acting Superintendent Kevin Maloney here, who is the lead in this project. You know what? We've asked him to stay, so I'm going to let him answer that question.
Okay.
I know some answers, but I'm going to make him earn his money here. Kevin.
No, thank you very much, sir. I have to apologize. I actually left the office without my without my report. But so the 63 positions that are spread out over 3 years, they are actually detailed in one of the annexes there.
Yeah.
And so you do have resources that are being deployed across all 4 districts. So that's where we have our analysts, our community intake relationship specialists, and some of the other key pieces to actually stand up the structure for those 4 districts. As you move in, there's just a few number of those in the first year. Moving into 2027, that's where you're going to see the bulk of the infrastructure, the command structure being put in place for the South District. So that is working all the way down from the superintendent down to your sergeants. And those will be net new positions to stand up that command structure. The constable positions will be coming from the bulk of them from east and west, as they were the main parts of the current deployment model that has been affected by the creation of the 4th district. And then as we move into 2028, you'll see also now an increase in the community policing officers, which are then again aligned with the distribution of the current award system. So that's just to stand things up. So if we take Deputy Chief Burnett's world, we're just rearranging what he already has, providing him enough command structure in order to stand up the South platoons, and then giving a little extra boost on the neighborhood side of it. Any further expansion beyond that will be looked at after some further work has to get done.
Okay, thank you for that. And I'll just use this opportunity, since we're on the topic, that I do have an inquiry, and I know you're working on it with respect to the surplusing and the closure of the Leitrim station. And I've had some good dialogue with officials to date about engaging the community to understand what's happening with both the district model, the construction of the South Nepean headquarters, which is well underway. But still, a lot of people, I think, are surprised that we're closing Leitrim, or it's a lot going on in the world and around us. So I do think, and I appreciate the commitment that you've made, that we will be doing some engagement with the Finley Creek and Leitrim community to see how they fit into these plans. It's not a closure without some replacement or some fulfillment of the needs of that community for policing in that. So I appreciate the commitment that's been made to date, that there'll continue to be some engagement with that community to again explain the rationale for the closure and explain how the South District model and the new headquarters will be much more positive for them over time to deal with the growth in that area.
Yes, and I'm aware of that inquiry. I'm not personally part of that, but I can let you know that when we were developing the actual district boundaries, part of what we were looking at was the drivability, or the ability to move around from what will be our 4 main stations within the area of their responsibility. So, the current positioning of Greenbank and Leitrim, we're taking into account the services that are being provided out of there. Obviously will be redistributed, and that has been a factor. We understand that having that Leitrim station has been for going on 30+ years as Ottawa Police it is a core piece of that community, and as it's been growing out around it, they've been relying on that. I hope that they won't see any change in their service delivery, especially it probably will improve based on our new model that we're putting in place.
Yeah, and I appreciate that, and thank you for providing that assurance. And I think I think as long as we have some public engagement to provide that message and show that this new model is not going to result in a reduction or less presence for the police in the community. And I think they appreciate that. You know, the South has grown significantly. Barrhaven, Riverside, South Findlay Creek, it's a city unto itself. And that the pre-amalgamation structures really are inefficient and don't meet the current needs and complexities of the Ottawa Police Service. So again, look forward to that engagement and providing some focused some focused reassurance to the community as we go through this process with the closure of Leitrim. Thank you. That's all, Chair.
Thank you. Member Paulin.
A question, it can be answered by any of the representatives of the OPS. The 63 additional FTEs, are they a direct function of the new district model, or would they be required in any event?
Thank you, Member Paulin. Well, they are a direct result of the district model and the work that we've done. Having said that, had we not pursued the district model at all and we just kept status quo, certainly we have human resource challenges, you know, across the city that we would have to address. So via growth. So while this district work and this project has produced that number, there certainly would be something that we would have just had to have done had we not moved in this direction. I'm not sure if that fully answers your question.
No, I'm just asking because, you know, this morning there were stories in the media about the new district model resulting in this need for expansion.
Right.
But my own sense as I read them was, well, no, there's a need for expansion. There's a redistricting, but the two of them are not inexorably tied together. And that's really what I was asking.
Right. No, you're right. Yeah, I mean, again, if I can't guess what we would need for more growth had we just stayed status quo, but there's no doubt, Kevin and his team have been very thoughtful and deliberate and trying to analyze what would be needed, you know, for the district model so we can build in all 4 districts a structure that is more accountable and more responsive to those individual wards and geographic areas, because that tailoring to, again, as I always use, what's needed in Carp and what's needed in Vanier are 2 different. So we want to make sure we have the proper structure to do so. And as I think Member DeRoche mentioned, Southern Ottawa is nothing like it was 5-10 years ago in terms of the growth that has occurred. And we have to account for that. And, you know, I think there is some parallels made that South Ottawa is really like the size of Kingston. And we think about how many officers Kingston has on the road at any one time. What we have on the road for that, you know, equal part isn't acceptable. We have to do better to serve that community, that particular part of our city better. And that's what part of this is about.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. I don't see any more questions from other members, so I actually have a few questions myself, of course. So I'll just sneak those in. First of all, I want to say I personally found this report to be of extremely high quality, the written report that accompanied this. The information seemed like very fresh and relevant. And so I just wanted to comment on that particular piece. I'm going to make sure, was it Kevin Maloney's on the line, and he mentioned drivability was a consideration with respect to when they looked at districts. And I noted in the report itself, it talked about, you know, the geographic boundary and resource mapping that was needed. So other than drivability and likely calls for service, what other factors are considered when putting together a district and deciding what that district looks like?
So we looked at factors that we the Ottawa Police had, which would be our data and our statistics and various aspects of that. So we would be looking at the ability to respond, you know, length of time, type of calls, etc. And then we also went outside and we did get 4 main data sets with respect to community demographics and other aspects of how Ottawa is built from a community perspective. And we pulled again from internal and those external ones, provided weighted factors against those, and then scored each of the various neighborhoods. And from the neighborhoods, then we looked at how we would balance things out based on community need, the ability to provide service, the modeling that we wanted to have with respect to having a new south building. So that helped define the district boundaries. And now the work that we're doing right now is looking within each district, how we're going to create the zones within there. And that's getting into more detail with respect to what types of calls are going on in there, the ability for one officer, how much work can they take on. So the other aspect of the staffing and the zones are what we're expecting our officers to do. Like, they just can't be 100% response. They have other duties and other proactive work we want them to do. So all of that, there's different pieces of this. Again, we're going to get help, external help with this to create the different zones. And then the staffing model will be laid on top of that.
Okay, so just to confirm that the 63 officers, those are all going to be patrol officers? Because in the report itself, it outlines the various officers that form part of a district. So you've got youth officers, your NRT, your CPOs, your crime and research analysts, and your community intake relationship specialists. But so 63 needed officers, do they not fall in those categories? Are they more just your regular patrol?
So there are 63 positions that we're looking for. So I didn't mean to cut you off.
No, that's okay. So there's civilian and non-civilian positions, if I read it correctly, right? So they're not all patrol, but they're
That's
part
correct.
of okay.
Yeah, so there's support aspects of things. So our data analytics pieces are again, the community connection pieces. There's also again, if you look at year 2026, that's putting in place a few civilians in there, but also including we need 6 new police communicators, right? So that's a piece for that year. In the 2027, the bulk of them are going to be your more frontline, so your emergency response group. And then as we move into 2028, that's where we're augmenting the neighborhood groups. So your community policing officers and other parts within the CSWB. So we have our under a bid, Jan, he has various aspects of other community supports units that need to be topped up as well. So so it is civilian and sworn members within there, 63 positions total.
Okay. And as this sort of develops, will we get a better explanation of sort of what each of these roles are and sort of what the expectations are for them, like what a CPO exactly does and is responsible for versus a youth officer? Like, for example, with the reintroduction in schools, it would be useful to I think more detail on what the expectations are for each of these roles within the district.
Okay, no, I understand where you're going with that. So right now, in the current model that we're working, where we have the 4 district inspectors and the division by districts for our neighborhood resource teams, our community policing officers, youth is actually divided out into the 4 areas, and traffic as well. Each of those positions is going to work together in that structure in order to address the individual needs of the community. We will definitely be part of the rollout of this is to help the community explain what the different rules are, why we need the different rules, and how they're going to provide a unique piece to the response puzzle, right? So yes, that will come out, but you're experiencing it right now. Like the roles and responsibilities that were changed and augmented in May of 2024 in that pilot deployment model, that is the proof of concept. That is what we're going to build and build up and augment.
Okay, thank you. The chief, I think, wants to add something. Am I correct, chief?
Yeah, thank you, Vice Chair. I just wanted to add just a comment. I believe it's on page 92 of the package. It does talk about 92 existing positions that have been strategically repurposed as part of this. So when you add up, the 155 positions or whatever it might be there that we were looking at, trying to redistribute, and then what we couldn't gap or repurpose, then this is sort of the net new as well too. So there was quite a bit of work done by Kevin and his team to, deal with what we already have and make sure to make this district model work, and then look at what we need on top of that. So I just wanted to mention that. Thank you.
Okay, thanks very much. I just have one last question, and it just has to do with, we're hearing from the delegations earlier today about the efforts really in that core area. And I shouldn't have said core, because I'm going to ask a question about how the core strategy works with the district policing. Like, is the core strategy really more of just something tactical that's used to enhance the district policing model, or is it standalone on its own? Because I really see it as in terms of, it's a tactic to bring in those community partners, have the discussions. You've got that sort of hotspot policing. We've talked about the potential rollout to Centertown. So is it sort of going to be an enhancement to district policing and something that we can move around as needed, or is it going to continue to stand on its own? If that question makes sense.
Right. Interestingly, the core program initially was underneath Kevin and his team, just sort of as as a proof of concept, and then sort of starting to roll out, but sort of detaching it, because obviously there was at the time the greatest need was in the Byward Market Rideau area. So wanting to develop a program, evidence-based program, multiply pronged enforcement, social agency, kind of helping. And is this a path that we want to go on? And so it is, when I say it's separate from the district project, it's aligned with it, particularly under the community safety well-being areas. So it's something that we would want to expand across the city if we see that it's working. Again, as I mentioned, we have to develop it and mature a lot of those programs as we're just getting started. But it will hopefully be a part of our district model and how we're delivering policing across the city. I don't know if that answers, or Kevin, do you have anything you want to add to that?
I'll just top up. Yes, just to build on that, like the strategies that are being employed by CORE. So they're all evidence-based policing strategies, but the people doing the work are your NRTs, right? So it's not a standalone CORE unit. It's policing practice, evidence-based police practices that are being employed by the NRTs in a specific area to deal with specific issues. And the idea is we did start small. So back last year, we started things up almost a year ago, and there was we'll say a pilot of the core where we did learn a lot of lessons there about how we can actually roll this thing out. Now we're seeing, a growth in that area and an expansion. And the idea is, just as the chief mentioned, these strategies will be used throughout the city.
Okay, great. Thank you very much. I don't have any further questions. So it is time to receive this report. So it's recommended that the Ottawa Police Service Board receive this report for information. Is the item received?
Received.
Great, thank you very much. The next item we have is 8.7, the update on the mounted unit. I believe it was Member Henschel that held that item. Other questions from?
Yeah, I just had one question around I noticed in the report on the financial side that because of some timing and things like that, there wasn't sufficient, I think, funding in one of the years to cover cover shortfall for the following year. If I understood it correctly, you're going to try to manage this between other provincial funding so that this is cost neutral to the budget from the city, the police budget from the city. Is that correct?
Okay, thank you. Okay, so I'll turn that to either Steve or Paul, just in terms of that particular part of it. Steve, are you ready to answer that question?
Yeah, I can answer that.
Okay.
So Member Henshaw, what we do with our provincial funding is, as we move through as you know, there's several projects that have definitive buckets attached to them. What we've been doing so far is moving some of the money around to make sure that the projects that need funding get the funding. So our anticipation is we hope to have some other projects completed from a project cost perspective, not an operational delivery, and we'll look to fund any shortfall through provincial money that had been previously allocated in a different area. We have to wait until we get closer to it, but exactly like you identified, that is our plan to make sure that the provincial funding covers the provincial projects.
Okay, and then my follow-up would be, is that will eventually this become a funding responsibility out of the city budget? Like, is it, I assume that there's several years of funding to set up the unit and to run it, but does that money sunset at some point, or is there ongoing funding expected from the province?
So it's a 3-year commitment from the province, from the Solgen's office to us. We are entering into year two now. So in the fall, we're going to begin discussions with the Solgen to look at how we can look at a continuation or extension of this funding. And if not, then we'll have to make some decisions on what transitions to taxpayer operational budget and what programs, because each one of the projects is set up as a program that's independent, what programs we will continue or not. So I think it's too early to determine what the path forward is, but we're already in the process of looking to start those discussions with the Solgen and have so far been quite positively received.
Okay, thanks for that. And I guess, it's something we'll talk about further as we work through the budget process. Thanks.
Thank you. Were there any other questions on the mounted program? I do have one quick question myself. Just wondering when we would have submitted the request to the provincial government to fund it. I imagine we would have had to have targets and indicators for the mounted unit, what we expected it to accomplish and how we were measuring it. Do those exist?
Yeah, so we submitted for the for this program after like the Ottawa deal, if you will, that it's part of that funding. So that surfaced like last spring, March, April, May, and we do have to report back on the funding and the money that we spend. John Steinbach's and his team prepare a report for the province when it comes to meeting the KPIs that they want to see specifically for each bucket of for each program, that they are funding.
Okay, and is that something that could be shared with us with
yes,
the board?
100%. Yeah,
okay.
You bet.
Excellent. So far, media coverage related to this is largely focused on the refuse of the horses, but I would like to understand that a bit. So thank you very much for that. So we do have to now actually receive that report on the mounted unit. So is this item so the recommendation is that the Ottawa Police Service Board receive this report for information. Is this item received?
Received.
Thank you very much. I do believe now we are at 8.13. That is the letters of commendation from the chief. So Chief, I'll turn to you, or I imagine you'll turn that over to Deputy Chief Burnett.
The good news man is always Deputy Burnett. Paul.
Thank you. I have 4 commendations that I'd like to share with the board today. The first one was received on the 7th of June from a member of the public, and it reads, "Dear Ottawa Police, I wanted to say thank you to the officer who took the time to say hi to my daughter. He was on foot patrol at Manatik Dickinson's Day Parade Friday evening. She was so happy and proud, the officer gave her a high five. Thank you for making her evening. This is what community policing is all about, and we love seeing our officers engage with the community." The second one was received on the 16th of June, again by a member of the public. Please express my gratitude to the 911 operator who answered my call around 11:15 a.m. on Sunday, June 15th, and asked for an ambulance to Primrose Park. I came across my neighbor trying to retrieve a dead squirrel from her dog's mouth. Things escalated quickly, and she lost part of her finger because she had her hand in her dog's mouth. I definitely panicked, mainly because I was trying to control her 150+ pound dog, calm her, and use her mobile and deal with the squirrel. I was totally losing it, but the operator was firm and reassured me. I needed that. I'm very grateful for his assistance. On June 18th, the member of the public writes, and this is relation to Constable Monroe and Constable Beauchamp. Hello, I support individuals with intellectual disabilities. Yesterday, Constable Monroe and another officer came to the program to help an individual I support to file a report. I felt it important to reach out and commend both of them. Constable Monroe did most of the interaction with the young lady filing the report. I was impressed with how patient, empathetic, and non-judgmental he was with her. This is not the usual experience the people I support have with the general public. Constable Monroe and his partner saw the person and not the disability. I was able to take back seat and was able to provide support without having to be an advocate. It was a positive experience for her in a very stressful situation. Please let them know that what they did yesterday mattered and made a difference for somebody who is struggling. And the last one was received on the 25th of June, Constable Andula and Cullen. Good morning. I'm reaching out to say thank you so much to Constable Cullen and Abdullah for their support during my family's time of need about a month ago. Constable Cullen and Abdullah were incredibly professional and supportive when they paid our family a visit during a wellness check for our child. We are very grateful for their calm communication style when they engaged with our family. Their communication style was authentic, and we could feel like they really cared about our child. We also truly appreciate all the follow-up support that was available to us. We never expected the constable to follow up afterwards, but not only did they follow up, but they offered additional visits by other members of the OPS team. Our interaction with the OPS team truly demonstrated to us how strong our city's safety net can be to help our young folks stay safe. We truly appreciate the OPS team helping and really value your important work. Kudos and thanks. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Deputy Chief. Always appreciate hearing those letters in. We will now receive that report. So it is recommended once again that the Ottawa Police Service Board receive this report for information. Is the item received?
Received.
Thank you. So now, other business. Do any board members have any other business? Seeing none, this concludes our public meeting. Our next regular meeting will be held on September 29th, 2025. It's in 2 months. So can I please have a motion for adjournment?
So moved.
Excellent. Thank you very much to everyone. Have a good evening.